Hi guys, it's Carrie with Clay Revolution, and today I'm going to show you how to use paper texture sheets. These are lovely little textures, and it's a little bit different than using your traditional texture mat that's either rubber or one of the vinyls or anything like that. So I thought it would be helpful to go through how to use these properly. So, let me start off by showing you how they come. It is a sheet of paper that has been laser etched, and it's a very fine cut, so you can get lots and lots of detail. Like, I'll give you an example. This is one of the ones that's a little bit larger, versus you can get some that are super fine detail. Like this is actually tiny peacock feathers. So they come very detailed, and it's helpful for a few reasons. There are certain projects which are better if you're using a very shallow texture. For instance, if you're texturing a ring band, like the base of a ring band, you want to keep your texture very shallow because you don't want that irritating between the fingers when you wear the ring band. Another thing that shallow texture is really good for is when you're going to be doing soldering on top of a piece. I have a few samples today. This is one that is an example of soldering on top of textured metal clay. When you do that, you don't want a lot of deep recesses with little points sticking up because you need a lot of surface area to make the solder connection. So it's important to use a real shallow texture when you're going to be soldering on top of it. So those are a couple examples of why it's really nice to use these occasionally versus the real deep rubber or vinyl mats. I'm sure there's lots of other good reasons to use. Oh, I thought of another one. We're gonna do double-sided texture too. So it's also nice for double-sided texture. But let me get right in to show you how to actually do these. What you want to do, I'm just looking for a copy of one here real quick. There we go. What you actually are gonna do is prepare this. Once it's been prepared, you won't need to do this again, but the first time that you use these, you need to prepare them. You're going to basically be making what would be referred to as like an oil sheet out of these. If you were to roll your metal clay directly onto these textures, it's going to stick in those recesses, and it's going to stick all to the surface of it, and it's very difficult to get it off of there. A lot of people will just use the release agent on the face of the piece, and it seems to absorb it on, and you roll and the clay still sticks. The reason is it hasn't gone all the way through the paper yet, and so the paper just continues to absorb that release agent, and your clay keeps sticking to it. So what you want to do is prepare basically what's called an oil sheet. You are going to completely soak this all the way through with a release agent so that then it doesn't continue to absorb the release agent on you, okay? So the easiest way to do that is to sand the back of the paper to kind of open up the pores a little bit, put lots and lots of release agent onto it, and let it soak in. Again, once you've done that, you don't need to ever do that again. You do continue to put a little bit on the face of it before you use it, but you won't need to put nearly as much on as you do normally. So let me move the camera and show you how to do one of those real quick. I'm going to turn this. Slide this for you. Flip this around. Okay. There we go. I would like to have it a little closer. Okay. So this is an example of one that's already been oiled. This is the back of the same texture mat, okay? but this one has been oiled all the way through. So you can see on the back of here, you actually see the imprint of the front of the design is just the shadow coming through the piece, okay? That's a good way to tell that you've got this soaked completely with the release agent, okay? So we're going to use Liberation Spray to do this. This is a silicone-based release agent. It's what I like to use. I like to use silicone versus the oils. It's a little less sticky. So that's what we're going to be using to do this. And I have a little emery board that I'm just going to use to sand the back of this. So let me do that real quick. And hopefully my camera stops wiggling for you. I'm having technical issues today. I probably just should not have recorded. Okay. The back of it's sanded just a little bit. That's just to get, again, just to get the pores open so it absorbs the release agent a little bit better. I'm gonna start with like 3 really good squirts of this and spread it around a little bit. And you can see right away that the paper starts to absorb the release agent. You'll see it getting darker in different areas as the silicone or the release agent works itself in. Okay. Then when you can see there's just none left on the surface to keep absorbing, squirt it a few more times. And again, let that sit. Okay. Now, I tend to let these sit maybe 10 minutes or so before I know it's really absorbed where I want it to be. And then if there is any extra release agent, you can just wipe it right off there. Use it to lube the other side before you're going to roll your clay, whatever you'd like to do. Okay, so it's still, you can see it does still have some absorbing to do, mainly through the deeper parts of the texture. Okay, so that is all you're gonna do. It looks just like that when you're done, and you'll know that, like you can see right here is a good example. The base of this is darker than this one. It's because it hasn't absorbed all the way through that paper yet. Okay. Okay. Again, before you use it, you are going to put a little bit more release agent on front, but not nearly as much as you would normally need to do. So that's how you prepare the paper textures. I keep them in a little bag. You don't really have to. They're not really oily. They don't leach oil or anything like that, but you can keep them in a little bag, seal them up if you'd like to. If you're using the oils like a olive oil or something like that, you probably don't want to seal that up because it could get a little bit yucky. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to show you that last little benefit of the paper textures versus some of the little more expensive textures. The paper textures obviously are inexpensive to manufacture, and so what you can do is you can actually afford to buy 2 of the same texture so that you can make double-sided texture of the same texture. It's really nice look to do on your pieces. These are some earrings that I've been working on, and I've got this texture, sorry, I've got this texture on both sides of the piece. So it's nice and cohesive, and with a paper texture you can afford to do something like that. Okay, so let me show you exactly what you do. So these have already been prepared and oiled. Again, I'm going to put a little bit of release agent on them, just a little bit. I'm going to start this one, the first roll, at probably, I guess I'm going to do 4 cards thick when I do this. Big chunk of clay here, just to show you what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to roll my first texture and then not move that. Then I'm going to reduce my depth to 3 cards so that that extra card of depth goes up into the top texture when I roll it. I'm going to place that on very carefully and roll again. This time I'm being extra careful not to shift anything. Okay, get rid of those. Carefully remove my texture. And now you can see I've got that beautiful texture on both sides of the piece. Lovely. So that is how you roll a double-sided texture with paper texture sheets. Trying to see if I have any more examples for you. This one is a good, I brought this out because of the soldering on it, but it's a good example of the clarity you still get with the textures even though they're a shallow depth. You get just a beautiful image with them. This is the one that's called, I believe it's called Koi in the Cherry Blossoms, something like that. It's a gorgeous piece, absolutely gorgeous. And this is the creation of that texture right there. So, if you've ever got any questions, be sure to let us know. And if you'd like to look at having custom textures made, we can also accommodate that. So just shoot us an email or call us at 562-879-1572. And if you need anything else, be sure to let us know. Thank you.